Hey, I'm Bill Marion on the Blue Ridge Parkway in Virginia. The video you're about to see was recorded live just a few days ago, but I wanted to cut it up and re-edit the video and make it a little more watchable in case you're seeking out some information about the Blue Ridge Parkway. Maybe you were headed here and didn't know that, well, when there's a government shutdown, it affects the Blue Ridge Parkway a great deal. Again, if you are just joining us today, welcome. My name is Bill Marion, and this is A Nose for Life. The U.S. government is shut down, and that means that one of our favorite roads in the world, the Blue Ridge Parkway, isn't at its best right now, to say the least. So you might be asking, what happens to the Blue Ridge Parkway when the government is shut down? And if you're asking that question, or if you're just bored and have nothing else better to do, then you've come to the right place. As always, our links are in the description if everything's saved right, because when I do these live videos, I've noticed that I'm usually doing something wrong when I try to do the description and tags and all that other stuff. So if I've done everything right, there are links in the description. I've placed about 4 or 5 links in the description to kind of give us an idea as we have this talk. I'm going to get this information out, then we can talk about it. Whether you're for or against the wall, it's not a part of the video. You guys are more than welcome to hammer it out in the comments, but I'm not going to get involved with that. I don't do politics on this channel, not anymore, because we have plenty of people that do that on YouTube. But here's what the law is clear about when it comes to government shutdowns, is that it has to be orderly. That was interesting in the research that I did prior to coming on live. Is like, well, how does a shutdown work when it comes to a national park or National Park Service? And it's very specific in the law that it has to be orderly. So you can't just lock the gates and say, okay, everybody's on furlough. It has to be orderly. So it's not like everything comes to like a screeching halt. But 800,000 federal employees are now on furlough, and that definitely affects the Blue Ridge Parkway. So according to the National Park Service, only the visitor center the visitor center, the campgrounds, and the government offices were supposed to be closed. Park rangers were not furloughed because they're considered necessary for public safety, and that makes sense. All of the maintenance personnel are furloughed right now. So it's kind of a big deal that there's no maintenance up there, and that's going to play into the conversation that I'm going to try to lead us in as far as how this shutdown affects the parkway. If you don't know what the Blue Ridge Parkway is, or you've never been there, it's an all-American road. It was built, they started building it during all of the work programs in the Great Depression. It's America's longest linear park. It runs for 469 miles through Virginia and North Carolina. It links the Shenandoah National Park to the Great Smoky Mountain National Park, and I've been to just about every single square inch of the parkway now, lacking about 14 or 15 miles. It mostly runs along the spine of the Blue Ridge, a major mountain chain in Appalachia. Its southern terminus is at the US 441 on the boundary between the Great Smoky Mountain National Park and the Cherokee Indian Reservation of North Carolina. So it's a pretty big deal. The parkway has been the most visited unit of the National Park System every year since 1946, except for 3 years, which was in 49, 13, and 16, and we can get into that some other time. Land on either side of the road is owned and maintained by the National Park Service, and many places the land is bordered by the United States Forestry Service property. The thing is that the parkway isn't something that people here on the East Coast have to travel a long way to get to. Half the U.S. population lives within 500 miles of Richmond, Virginia. Think about that for a minute. Half of the population. Now, what that means to the Blue Ridge Parkway or the Virginia skyline, and by the way, I'm not going to cover the Virginia skyline. There are some amazing things about the Virginia skyline, but you have to pay to get on the Virginia skyline. Okay, so the wind is blowing and I'm right above Interstate 64, so that's going to make for some terrible audio. But I'm right here in between the Virginia skyline and the Blue Ridge Parkway, which is to my left. So if you go south from this location, you're on the Blue Ridge Parkway. If you go north, you end up on the Virginia skyline. The staff on the Blue Ridge Parkway has been reduced. So even though the parkway was supposed to remain open, many portions of the parkway were closed by park rangers because they were deemed unsafe. And I'll talk more about that in just a minute. Park facilities like gift shops and bathrooms or restrooms are closed, and that's a big deal. And here's why. If you go back through and watch all of my Blue Ridge Parkway videos, I'm always talking about the facilities that you can stop and use the restroom. The reason why is because when you drive up to the parkway, it takes you a long time to get up there from whatever entrance point that you're at. And so if you want to exit the parkway, it chews up a lot of your time if you're wanting to exit and then go back. So having facilities up there is a pretty big deal. And so when they shut down, that really hurts tourism up there. So shutting those gift shops down, shutting those restrooms down, it's a big deal, but it also means shutting down garbage pickup. So here's the really interesting thing about garbage, and I just learned this recently. It's common sense, but it's something that I actually saw facts and figures about. People tend to want a garbage can, okay? In other words, they don't want to throw their stuff out on the road. I guess the campaign in the 1970s, you know, about littering and Keep America Beautiful, it had a tremendous effect on my generation, okay? Like, we don't litter as much as the previous generations did before we came along. I think it was those commercials in the 1970s. I know that it had an effect on me. I'm not going to lie about it. But people, when they don't have a garbage can near them, they'll still litter, because people are people. They do that. Or if they come up and see a garbage can and it's overflowing with abundance of garbage, sure, they will throw that garbage on top of the garbage and just keep that mountain growing. What does that mean for the parkway? Well, with no maintenance and no one to pick up the garbage, what it means is that the garbage it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, so that even when the government turns the lights back on, because they will, this will blow over, they'll come to a compromise, blah, 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 insert political nonsense here. When they do that, what will happen is it's not just a matter of maintenance going back into these areas. They're going to need additional money to fix all of the things that have happened during this time period. If you notice the mountain that's right behind me, the road that I'm on, again, it's closed, and you can see all the debris that's still on the road. This road is closed. I walked here from our vehicle, but this road goes all the way up to that mountain. The elevation there is right, I think 4,000 feet, but I might be wrong about that, but it's close to it. So when that snowstorm hit, it hit pretty hard, and if you can see the trees that are behind me, I don't know if the camera will pick that up or not. Yeah, it does. At the tops of these trees, just kind of devastated. You know, the snowstorm really knocked some trees down up here. No maintenance. That's where those trees will stay until the government shutdown ends. And on a different note completely, you can still hike and still come up to the Blue Ridge Parkway and hang out and do what I'm doing right now. There are all kinds of cars at the entrance point. Because if we have another really bad cold spell, that could spell disaster for the Blue Ridge Parkway, especially when the government turns the lights back on. And that could mean more of a delay of people enjoying the parkway. Let me interrupt here for a Mark. It was saying, if I can get there between work days, I'll clean the restroom at Klingland's Dome. I love it. How can I work this? Massachusetts is a bit of a drive. Mark, by the way, thank you for watching from Mass. Carol and I love Massachusetts. We're wanting to get back up there this next summer. That's a goal of ours, is to get up there. So anyway, back to the Blue Ridge. This last snowstorm that took place, according to a ranger that we talked to, Carol and I got to talk to a ranger 2 days ago while making another video. I don't think any of the closures that are taking place right now on the parkway have any political overtones to them. I don't think it's any type of maneuvering. The bottom line is we had a snowstorm here in Virginia all the way down into North Carolina in November, and they were trying their best to clear it up. But this snowstorm knocked like 100 trees down per mile in certain stretches of the parkway. There was no way they were going to get that cleaned up in 2 or 3 weeks. No way. So the government shutdown happens on December 22nd, and those roads are still a mess. And so the rangers, even though the parkway was supposed to stay open during the shutdown, which would have been really cool if that snowstorm hadn't happened, because you could have been up there, the bathrooms would have been closed, but hey, you could have just driven anywhere you wanted to during the shutdown. But because the rangers were still on duty, so they could respond to certain things if it happened. They were still up there. They still have speed traps set. Saw a ranger pull somebody over. But regardless, it doesn't matter. They can't clear out can't clear off the roads. So they shut it down. The rangers deemed it impossible for people to drive through there, so they've shut areas down. But it does people start questioning that. Like the locals up there don't necessarily agree that it's not political. But that's, sometimes locals, I've been a local before, and sometimes locals have an axe to grind because of something that's happened years ago. But in this case, having talked to a ranger, having seen what the snowstorm did just on the skyline, and we didn't have it that bad here, but down in North Carolina and Southern Virginia, they had it pretty bad. It makes sense to me that the rangers were just doing their job and keep people safe. What it means is that you do not know whether or not your entrance point has been shut down or not. One of the things that I keep seeing over and over again is that they will shut down portions with no notice. You don't have any notice at all, and they just tell you it's shut down. When you get there, the gate's up, and then there's a sign. And that's annoying. If you're on a trip, it is very difficult to try to find an entrance point that's open. Carol and I have done that before. from Chattanooga coming up to Virginia, trying to hit the park or hit the Blue Ridge Parkway at a certain place, and all of the entrance points but one are closed. And so you're trying to find that entrance point because the website sometimes isn't up to date, but during the government shutdown, they don't update the website. So it's a kind of a crazy kind of thing with the Blue Ridge Parkway in the shutdown, and there's all these in the links. I have several articles from local news agencies talking about, and they interview people who were trying to go to certain entrance points on the parkway, and it's hysterical because they all say the same thing. It's such a shame, you know, that the government shuts down and we can't get here. That makes a good news story. But if you know the parkway, you know that during this time of year, you're going to see certain entrance points shut down. That's normal. And I've been there last February. Most of the parkway was shut down during February because of maintenance. And if it wasn't maintenance, it was weather. Lots of ice. And you do not want to be on the parkway when it's really, really cold and it's been raining or snowing the week before, because they may have salted, but there's a thing called black ice and you will slide around. We did it last year with 60 degrees, but when we go through places where it's in the shade, it'd still be ice there. And I mean bad, really bad. So it happened to us a couple of times last year. So unless you go up there all the time and you kind of know what stretches to be careful on, it's not something you would want to do this time of year anyway, if there's any safety issues at all. I don't think sometimes people realize that some of those places on the Blue Ridge Parkway are pretty desolate. They're surrounded by wilderness areas, especially down in North Carolina. But here's the funny part about North Carolina. The last I heard, which was an article posted, I think 24 hours ago, of all places that's still open right now is Mount Mitchell. And you can still, I think they have a stretch of roads connecting to the parkway that you can get to Mount Mitchell. I thought that was hysterical. Mount Mitchell's the highest peak in Appalachia, and it's awesome up there. It's my favorite, one of my favorite mountains in the world. I love mountains anyway, but it's my favorite mountain. I mean, it's just beautiful. It's wonderful up there. 7,000 feet or close to it, I think. And it's odd to me that there's actually an entrance to Mount Mitchell right now. So has the government shutdown affected your trip to the Blue Ridge Parkway? Let me know about it in the comments below. A special shout out to Dave and Juan and Mark for keeping the live stream a little lively. Listen, when we go live, we want you to be a part of it. So be sure to click the bell for notifications and of course subscribe. And listen, when we go live, I encourage you to jump in there and keep it lively and let's talk about some things. We're going to be going live a whole lot this year. We were going to do it last year, but we moved to Harrisonburg, Virginia. We're going to go live and do the whole live streaming thing at least once, twice, maybe 3 times a week from here on out for the rest of eternity. No, not for the rest of eternity, probably not. Anyway, again, my name is Bill Marion. This is A Nose for Life. Thank you so much for watching. And listen, if you have time, check out some of these other videos.
Reporting from Capitol Hill, I'm Bill Marion for A Nose for Life News. I've always wanted to do that.
Me that this skyline,